Hi, thank you for joining me for today's 5-minute Bible study. Today we're going to be in Colossians chapter 1, verse 6. As I've been saying for the past couple of days, remember to go ahead and look at verses 3 through 8 to get the context of verse 6, because that actually is one sentence from 3 through 8, and we're just looking at a little clause in the sentence. So I want you all to get the context of what's going on here. So when you get a chance, go ahead and look at 3 through 8. But today we're going to read verse 6 in the New American Standard Bible, and it says this: which has come to you, just as in all the world also it is constantly bearing fruit and increasing, even as it has been doing in you also since the day you heard of it. So it says at the beginning, which has come to you, just as in all the world also. And it's talking about the gospel. If at the end of verse 5, we recognize Paul's talking about the gospel, the word of truth. And here, Paul's continuing his conversation about the gospel. And he says that it is in all the world, it has come to the Colossians just as it has come to all the world. So the Colossians had heard the gospel. We're going to talk about that in a couple of days. But we recognize the Colossians had heard the gospel. And Paul is making the point that it's come to not just them, but to all the world. Now, Paul's not saying that in every corner of the world, everybody has heard the gospel. That's not what he's saying. He's using this rhetorically. He's saying it kind of like how you say you love pizza. You don't actually love pizza, but you're making this point about how much you really enjoy pizza. And in the same way, Paul's saying in all the world, and it doesn't mean every speck of the earth is going to get this. But what he's saying is that this gospel is widespread. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. Again, and when I say everywhere, I don't mean every speck of earth, but it's all over. It's very widespread. And so the gospel, which has come to you, is widespread. It's in all the world. And also, it is constantly bearing fruit and increasing. Constantly bearing fruit and increasing is an interesting term because we recognize that God's always telling his people to go and increase. Right? He told Adam and Eve to go and increase. He told Noah to go and increase. He told Abraham he would go and increase. And so this concept of increasing is something that God has always done for his people. And here we see that God's increasing the world into Christianity through the gospel. And he says here that it's constantly bearing fruit and increasing. So the idea is that for something to bear fruit and increase, the concept is, if you would, to grow wide and to grow deep. Bearing fruit, growing deep, increasing, growing wide. So the idea is that the church is growing wide. It's getting bigger and bigger. There's lots of numbers growing. And then bearing fruit also and increasing also means to become deeper in your understanding of God, deeper in your relationship with God, deeper in your relationship with Jesus. So this gospel that's in all the world and also with the Colossians is bearing fruit. It's growing people deeper in the Lord and in their relationship, and it's increasing. It's building the church throughout this world that we're in. And we see that's exactly what happened at that time. And it says, even it has been doing in you also since the day you heard of it and understood the grace of God and truth. So even as it has been doing in you also. And Paul says that, and he's doing this purposefully, because he wants the Colossians to know that, hey, you have that faith, you have that love, you have that hope. It's because of the gospel. It's not because of all these other things that these false teachers are going to try to tell you to do. Because the false teachers are saying, you need the gospel plus. You need Jesus plus whatever, plus doing extra things, being a good person, following these rituals, plus the gospel equals salvation. And Paul's here saying, you already have this gospel. It's already working in you. It's already growing in you. So he's saying, don't listen to those false teachers. Recognize you have the gospel. You don't need to add anything onto it. And finally it says, since the day you heard of it and understood the grace of God and truth. And that's the reality. The gospel is the grace of God. It's because of the gospel, because of what Jesus did for us, that we can experience God's grace. Without Jesus, we can't experience that grace. People who don't receive Jesus never experience God's grace. It's only through the reception of the gospel, recognizing who Jesus is, what he's done, can we then experience the grace of God. And so with that, I just appreciate you guys joining me again today. I'm looking forward to this every day. So thank you for being with me. Looking forward to being with you again tomorrow. Have a great day.